What is going on, everyone? Welcome to the Mastering Management Podcast. This is episode number 2. Thank you so much for joining us here today. Today, we're going to be talking about how do I work with a bad boss? How do I do it? How do I work with somebody who is challenging? How do I work with a challenging leader? Super excited about what we're about to get into today. But first, this podcast is brought to you by Mastering Management Online Course. Go to joinmasteringmanagement.com to become a better, successful leader. Okay, we're going to get right into it today because this is something that I think works for both aspects. And that is, if you're an employee or if you're in a management position, you're gonna encounter somebody who has bad leadership, who is not a good boss, who is not a good leader. So how do you work with somebody who's bad, and how do you correct that situation? How do you work with a challenging leader? And eventually you're gonna have to confront it. And that's exactly what we're gonna talk about today. So there's a 10-step process that I wanna go over. So if you're listening to this in your car, or if you're listening to this passively, if you can, take a few notes, maybe listen to this again, because I wrote some notes about the 10 things I want to go over right now. Some of the stuff I learned from books, from actually doing it, from situations that I wish went better. And then I had to reflect on and go, okay, what's the better way to figure this out? And it's something that you need to be intentional about. So I also want to commend you, by the way. If you're listening to this podcast, it means you want to be a better manager and a better leader. That means you have such power inside you right now to be a better manager, to be a better leader. And I'm super excited because that means you and I we're kindred spirits in the sense we're very similar. So I want to commend you guys for that. So let's get right into it. Okay. So whenever you're having a bad boss or a bad manager or a bad leader, the first thing you got to ask yourself, and by the way, some team members, some employees, and even some managers are going to hate this first thing that I'm going to say, but you got to say it because I've made this mistake. So number one, you got to figure out, is it me? Is the drama me? Yeah, that's what you got to figure out. Ask yourself, is it actually something that's within my control? So first, own everything you could be doing wrong. Think to yourself, well, if my boss is a jerk to me because I'm always late, maybe that's on you, right? Maybe that's on me. If I'm showing up 10 minutes late, maybe that's on me. Think about that for a moment. If there's a situation that your boss is consistently aggravating you about, is it within your control to fix that behavior? So first things first, you got to look internally at yourself and say, what can I own? What can I control in this situation? Can I fix this as an individual, as a team member, as an employee, as an assistant manager? How can I fix this? By the way, managers, general managers, managing partners, CEOs, they need to ask this question themselves too. They need to ask, hold on a second, the problems in my company, is it me? Am I inflicting these problems? Every great leader takes immediate ownership of the situation. Hold on a second. Before I go to blame somebody else, is it me? Always think that. Even with your team members, even with your managers, is it me? Own everything that you could change. So write down a list of and be honest, by the way. This is where tough love Josh is going to come in. Don't lie to yourself and say, well, yeah, I could be doing this, but it's really because of them. No, if you can control a situation, you have something that is in your actual frame of reference of how you can change that behavior, and you own it and change that behavior. So number one, is it me? Is it me? Is the issue me? Always ask yourself and assess that. Be honest. Be honest with yourself. Brutally honest if you can. Number two, seek to find out facts. Is this actually factual? Is it factual? Is your boss being a jerk? And is there actually evidence to support that? So what that means is, do multiple people agree that there is a problem? Now, I'm not telling you to go talk smack about your boss with everybody else, but if there's an issue going on, it's usually pretty prevalent and a couple of people will agree. People will come out of the woodwork and say, Yeah, we don't like working with him. Yeah, the shift's always bad when we work with her. So search for evidence first. Well, second, but search for evidence, because then you'll be able to assess that, wow, there's actually a deeper issue here. So search for evidence. Is this actually factual? Are there facts to back this up? Is there facts to back up that the manager can be aggressive sometimes? They can be rude sometimes. They can say rude things to people. They're on their phone all the time and don't do anything, and they don't. They're lazy, right? Look for other sources of evidence. If you're, by the way, if you're like a middle manager, and this is about the general manager, and you're trying to assess this, don't go trying creating a source against the general manager or the managing partner or the CEO. Ask your team members this question. Ask your other managers this question. Hey, how's everybody treating you? How's the other members of management treating you? I always like to assess who's doing well and who could be better. Start with yourself first, by the way. Be like, how am I doing? How's everybody else doing? Is everybody treating you right? By the way, when people are bullied, they tend to be quiet about it. So you need to seek that out. You need to seek it out and ask questions like, how's everybody treating you? Is anybody treating you poorly? You got to poke for it. Because a lot of times people won't share it because they're afraid. They think it's on them. They think they're weak. And really the bully is the weak person. So seek facts. That's number 2. Number 3, you got to find out who's the most influential on this person. I said this, by the way, in one of my social media posts. This is something I learned directly from John Maxwell. And it's such a great question to ask. And that is, who is the most influential person on this person, right? Because you might not have all the evidence. You might not have all the influence. Excuse me, is what I mean. You might not have all the influence. You might have some influence, but you might not have the capability and the credibility to influence this person to make a decision. So you got to ask yourself, who is the most influential on this person? Because that person who's the most influential on that person is going to be able to influence the person's change of behavior. So asking yourself, who's the most influential on this person is a good way to understand that, listen, maybe I'm not the one who can change this person's behavior. Maybe I can also recruit somebody else in this conversation that we're potentially going to have influence on this individual. It's especially important for middle managers too, as well, because you can have somebody who's really, really good, who's a middle manager, and you're a middle manager too as well. So you're kind of on the same level, but they have more credibility with the direct supervisor. So recruit that person, talk to that person. Hey, listen, I noticed Jim tends to be really aggressive towards some of the team members. Some of the team members are bringing it up. They've been aggressive towards me too as well. Is this something that you find, or is it something that is not the case? Is it something that, there's an issue? And that person will, A, you'll seek evidence, and B, if that person is the most influential on that person, they'll start to understand, oh, there might be something we need to fix here. Good way to find out. Good question to find out who's the most influential person on this person is, who does the person go to for advice? Who do they lean into when they're asking a question, right? So when they want to solve something, who's their right-hand man? Who's their right-hand woman? Who's the right-hand person that they want and say, hey, listen, I need help with this. John, I appreciate you helping me on this. Can we get this done by such and such date? So who do they go to advice from? Who are they deferring to? Great question to figure it out. But by the way, this might not be very obvious right away, but this is something with intentionality. You'll figure out, I don't want to say pretty quick, but with intentionality, you'll figure it out. So who do they go to for advice? Who do they defer to? Who do they look to, right? It might be somebody that's above them too as well. Number 4, be outcome oriented. And consider bad outcomes too as well. This is really important because a lot of people think, man, if I'm able to talk to this person, everything's going to get fixed. Yeah, that might be true, but also you should consider what that other person's going to say too as well. A lot of times people are nervous and they're practicing everything that they're going to say, but they should all be also be practicing on what the other person's going to say too as well. Is this person going to all of a sudden say, why are you bringing this up? Why are you talking to me like this? I thought you trusted me. Like, there's intense conversations that I've had with people that I was like, oh my God, I didn't even picture this conversation. I even happened this way. So it's super, super important to make sure that you are considering what the outcomes are and their attention. Are they going to be aware of it? What are they going to say? Are they going to defend themselves? I talk about that in a lot in my course about the 3 Ds of what you will face when you always try to correct somebody's behavior: deflection, defeatism, or distraction. I'm not going to get into those today, but deflection, defeatism, and distraction is something that anybody's going to do when they're held accountable. They'll either deflect, they'll act defeated, or they'll try and distract. So ask yourself, what are they going to say? What do I want the outcome to be? What's the vision of like the kumbaya situation where we go, okay, all right, this needs to be fixed. But also, what are they going to say? Right? Not just what you're going to say, what are they going to say? So consider both of those. Step number 5, ask your boss, ask the leader if you guys can speak privately. This is common sense, but I think it should be noted. And this is the reasoning why, thankfully, I'm not going to say I'm never going to make this mistake, but thankfully I've had it done to me, and I'm sure you've had it, when a boss runs right up to you and starts correcting you in front of other people. It's embarrassing. You're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. By the way, if you're a leader or if you're a boss who does that, stop that immediately. It's unprofessional, and you lose so much credibility with your team members and with everybody. With that person that you're correcting, you just lose so much credibility because people are like, wow, this guy is gonna just challenge somebody right in front of everybody. That means he'd do it to me. So do not do that. I've had a lot of bosses do that, and sometimes like, I've had to learn about, whoa, can we have this conversation in private? I don't want to talk about this here. Can we have this conversation in private? By the way, if you are approached by a manager, or if you're approached by a team member aggressively, it's a good way to handle that situation. Whoa, hold please. Can we have this conversation in private? Let's not have this conversation in front of people. I do not feel comfortable having this conversation in front of other people. Let's have this conversation in private. And whether that's with somebody, a trusted other team member or a trusted other manager too as well, you want to make sure you're doing the right thing when it comes to sensitive conversations. But speak to the person privately. So whether it's with the most influential person on that person you have there, or just you and that person alone, you and the manager alone, speak to them one-on-one, or maybe 2-on-1, not to gang up on them, but have another witness if it's a really tense conversation. By the way, guys, if this is not clear and I do not make this clear, please consult HR. Your HR department has the best responses and answers for your specific company. Every company is going to be different. Every company is going to have different rules, but your HR department will have the best answers for your specific company. Everything that I give you, most likely every HR person will say, yeah, that's right. Because I've had lots of conversations with HR people in my career, and I've always seek their advice. Hey, what do I do here? What do I do here? So a lot of this advice I'm giving you is from direct HR people too as well, but always consult your HR person too as well. They're very good support for you too as well. By the way, if you do all this and then you ask your HR person, if you take all these notes and say, I was thinking about doing it this way, the HR person is going to be like, dude, can you come work in HR? Because a lot of times, a lot of people, the HR goes through so different scenarios. They look at logic, they look at facts, and they really, really like it when people start to think things through as opposed to just emotionally responding to a situation. By the way, I had an HR person told me that, said, if everybody just looked at things a little bit more logistically, instead of letting their emotions go over, which is almost impossible because we're human beings. You know, HR might not be actually have a position, which is funny. It's just funny because we as human beings we're just emotional creatures. It's something we got to do. So I find that comical because now we got to create a whole human resources department to deal with the fact that humans are emotional creatures and human beings. I love little stuff like that because I love human beings. I think it's funny. But anyway, I'm getting off topic. So ask your boss to speak with you privately. When you speak with them, this is number 6. Be empathetic. Do not challenge them. Be empathetic to their situation. List your complaint. List whatever's going on, and be factual about it. Try not to overuse phrases like "you make everybody feel this way." Let them know that, like, this is what's going on, this is what's happening, and this is how it is affecting people. This is how it's affecting the business. This is how it's affecting the outcome. It depends on this person, if this person is a relational person or if this person's a logistical person. I kind of leave that up to you to decide. But if the person is obviously relational, you can use phrases like, this is affecting people. This is affecting our people. This is affecting the morale of our people. If somebody's a logistic person, this is affecting the business. So then they'll start to understand. It'll come home to them. They'll bring it home to them. Number 7, be solution oriented, right? So number 6 is be empathetic and list what is going on. List the challenge that you have, right? And then number 7 is be solution oriented and seek to resolve the situation, not get in an argument. Remember, the purpose of this whole entire thing is to be able to work with somebody who's challenging, right? So be solution oriented, seek to resolve, and don't get into an argument. Do not get into an argument. Great question is, how do we fix this? How can we fix this together? I really, really trust your support. How can we fix this together? So one of the most important things is giving a presupposition, meaning you're presupposing that this is going to get fixed. It needs to get fixed and it's going to get fixed. Because if you just lie a complaint at somebody's feet, there is no productivity in that at all. It's one of the things that managers do not like the most, by the way. People who just go, here's a problem, deal with it. Because they have an enormous, if you're a manager, if you're a leader of a company, you have enormous problems on your plate every single day. It's problem. Can't even say it right. And when somebody else just goes, oh yeah, here's another problem, and they don't give a solution, it adds no value. I shouldn't say it doesn't add any value, but that person doesn't seem like they are a person of value by just providing a problem. And I know some would disagree and say, well, I pointed out the problem, so there needs to be fixed. Yeah, anybody can point out a problem. It takes somebody who is acutely aware of scenarios to find out that there's a solution here, and let's figure out what it is. So be solution oriented. 8, examine change. Did they change? Are they changing their behavior? Is there change in their behavior? This is where you take a step back. You watch their behavior. They know you're watching them, by the way. This is something that you need to dive into a little bit deeper and look for change. Are they being aggressive anymore? Are they being challenging anymore? Are they being late anymore? Are they being disrespectful anymore? Whatever it was that was the complaint, whatever it was that is the thing that's making the job experience so much tougher, is there change in it? Is there actual change? Did they change their behavior? Did the meeting come to a good place where there's actual positional change? The person's changing. They're changing their position on how they approach a scenario. Then this is the tough part that we're getting towards the end of this, the end of these 10 steps. This is a really tough part. And I don't have a good answer for this, by the way. And this has to do with you, and you would know the best scenario. Number 9 is decide whether you should stay or you should go. You know, a lot of times I get a lot of comments from people, what do I do about this? And what do I do about that? And for me, I've been through all these steps really quick. So, I mean, I've been through all these steps before, so I kind of go through them through my head pretty quickly. I'm not perfect by any means, by the way. I give out things and advice that I have used because I have failed so much, and I don't want anybody to fail the way I have failed. I'm progressively looking to get better. I still get coached. I still read every single day. I won't teach you anything if I haven't experienced it myself and I know it works, or B, somebody's taught it to me. I've seen it done repeatedly and I know it works. I'm not just pulling the stuff like this is experience. This is years of experience. So this question, by me saying all that, is something that even though I have years of experience and I've learned from many people, you can make the decision of it. I can't make this decision for you. So I was saying a lot of people reach out to me on social media. They reach out to me and they go, Josh, hey, what should I do in this scenario? And I'm like, I can give you the best course of action of what to do in a certain scenario, but only you can make the decision. So this is decision time. Should you stay in this environment or should you go? Is it worth you staying? This is a long, deep conversation that you need to have with yourself. You need to have with your family members. Is the stress worth it? Should you stay or should you go? A lot of times people are like, it's hard to make this conversation. I mean, it's hard to make this decision because we don't want to give up, especially if you're watching this podcast. If you're listening to this podcast, we don't want to give up. We're very we're go-getters. We're growth oriented. We want to change. So we always think like, barrel my way through, barrel my way through, barrel my way through. And it's true, man. It is always so true. You need to always progressively move forward. With that said, there are moments in life where you need to take a step back and say, this does not serve me anymore. This does not add consistent value to my life. No matter what we do in life, there is going to be a challenge associated with it. Even if it's a romantic relationship, there's going to be a challenge there. But you need to step back and say to yourself, is this adding a consistent amount of value to my life? Is it worth me still doing this? So should you stay or should you go? You're the only one who can make that decision. My recommendation is if there is change and the leader continues to change, then stay. You're developing influence with that person. Your relationship might get stronger and it might get better. Listen, I've had tough conversations with people. I think like, I'm going to fire this person because I'm getting emotionally involved, right? I'm not saying it to them, but I'm just thinking in the back of my head, there's two individuals that I'm thinking of right now. I thought for sure, I'm like, they're done, man. I tried so damn hard. And then I have a tough conversation with them and we get so close and we bond. And I literally call these people my friends today. So not saying that happens in every situation, but sometimes tough conversations lead to beautiful, beautiful results and beautiful relationships in the future. Because you understand each other better. So you go through this mental war together and you're like, wow, okay, cool. It's cool. So should you stay or should you go? Decision time. That's number 9. This is the last step. By the way, if you guys are learning anything from this, please subscribe to the channel. Please follow this on whatever podcast platform you're listening to. Subscribe to it. I'm trying to get this out on as many podcast platforms that I can right now. I want to work with a team on doing that because there's know your strengths, right? This is not, I can record things, I can edit things, I can do things like that, but like distribution, it's not my strength. So I got to figure out how I'm going to get to that person. If you know of anybody, let me know too as well. So subscribe to this, share it with somebody. Guys, this is all free content. I'm not charging you for any of this. Yes, my course is in depth and I spent hours upon hours going into that, dissecting everything. So yes, of course there's a charge for that. But this is free. This is free content for you. Listen, here's the thing. I've learned in my self-development life, there's 2 ways to gain knowledge. One is by like passively listening. It might be like you're passively listening to something and you're getting like 40 to 50% of what you're doing. And by the way, most podcasts, what people do, they listen to it and they're listening, but they might not be complete, like taking notes or whatever it is. Always for me, whenever I was into something, I had to pay for it. It's you pay to pay attention. It's really true. So that's why I have both avenues for people. Like if you really, really want to dive into something, and by the way, you can dive into all this free content on all my social media. You could dive into it and still learn from it. Absolutely, you can. I did it too as well, man. I went crazy. Like I went out and bought Tony Robbins' Awaken the Giant Within. This is years ago, man, the beginning of my self-growth journey. And I just went over and over and over on that book. It was $14, whatever it was. I just went over and over and over on that book. And I could have bought other things. I could have bought other courses. I could have bought other things, but I went over and over on that book. That book was my Bible for self-development for a long time. And then other books too as well. But that one really like grabbed me and said, Josh, this is how you change. So yeah, just a good reminder of that, of know where and how you're listening and paying attention to certain things. Last step, number 10. If you do choose to stay, make sure to publicly be, I'm trying to think of the right word, supportive of your company and of your leader. Don't let there be bad blood. Don't let there be like, well, I told this person off and I told it. If that's the case, then you should probably leave. If you're holding an ego attachment towards something, that's not healthy. It's not healthy in any relationship. It's not healthy in any working relationship too as well. So if you do stay, sweep it underneath the rug and say, okay, I'm going to support this company. I'm going to support this leader. I'm going to back them up. They're going to have my support. Don't hold it against them. Oh, I almost left. Don't do that. The resentment is the #1 killer of relationships. So you need to figure out what you need to figure out and then choose to forgive. This is a good lesson for life. It's not just a good lesson for work. Choosing to forgive is freedom. It's freedom because you don't carry the weight around. I know some people are like, man, I'll never forgive. We'll see. Anyway, if you stay, make sure you are a person who is supporting the company and supporting the person. Continuously be a person of support. So I'm going to go through it again real quick. How do you work with a bad boss? First, figure out, is it me? Second, is there evidence of this? Is it actually factual? Third, who has the most influence on this person? 4, be outcome oriented and consider that some of the outcomes might not be so good. Consider what the other person might say. 5, ask your boss to speak with them privately, not just publicly, privately. 6, be empathetic and list the challenge that you're facing. Number 7, be solution oriented and try to figure out how you guys can come to a solution together. Number 8, examine, is there actual change? Is the person actually changed their behavior? Number 9, make the decision. Should you stay at this company or should you go? Like, listen, if you guys are working with a bad leader, if I have not made this clear, by the way, that is something that can affect your life. It's okay to leave. It really is okay to leave. Don't spend 10 years of your life complaining about a boss that you don't like. Don't do it. It's okay to go, but you need to make that decision. Should you stay or should you go? Like that song would go, should I stay or should I go? I promise I won't sing anymore. Number 10, if you do stay, make sure you forgive and move on and publicly support the company and publicly support the leader. Be a person of support. Be a person of value. These things are pivotal. They're very pivotal, man. So listen, if you guys learned something today, share this with somebody you love. I hope this was of value to you. Listen, how to work with a bad boss is challenging. We've all had them. By the way, don't be a bad boss yourself. How do you not be a bad boss yourself? Look at all the traits that you don't like in somebody and ask yourself, am I doing that? If you are a leader of people, by the way, you need to look at yourself and think to yourself, if I'm making this behavior, if I'm actually doing this behavior, are my people replicating it? It's weird. It's like the age-old monkey see, monkey do. Whatever the leader does, the people do. So don't just yell at people and be like, how dare they? You could be guilty of creating this whole scenario. That's why the first thing we say in this, is it me? Is it me? Am I the drama? So, love you guys all. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for listening to the Mastering Management Podcast. I will see you all on the next one. Bye, everybody.